The Andy Pollin Show.
We got to go after this with everything we got, figuring they're going to come with everything they got.
I'll start off by saying I'm bored, I'm broke, and I'm back.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630 starts right now.
With wind chills expected to be below zero tomorrow, obviously you're not playing golf in town. If you play golf, you'd like to be playing golf someplace else, someplace warm. How about playing it on the moon, which happened 55 years ago today? We will get to that later in the show. Of course, lots to talk about with the Super Bowl. We'll get to some of the prop bets. An award last night for Bobby Wagner, Walter Payton Man of the Year award, and some Radio Row yak from Jayden Daniels talking about the change of offensive coordinators from Cliff Kingsbury to his quarterbacks coach David Blough, who now moves up to OC, what he thinks about that and what that's going to mean to his game, and a whole lot of other stuff as we head into the big game this weekend. Yeah, they tell you have to call it the big game if you make a commercial. Like, in a news sense, if this is a news-type show, I could say Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl a million times. It's fine. But if you're making a commercial and it relates to, buying snacks or, big screen televisions or things like that, you have to use the term the big game. Like, we really don't know what you're talking about. But, okay. So we'll deal with that. Yeah, Bobby Wagner last night was named the Walter Payton Man of the Year and dedicated, as you'll hear here coming up, most of his speech to his mother because he started a foundation in her name. It's called Fast 54. 54, of course, is his number, the Phenia May Fund, in honor of his late mother who died from stroke complications in 2012. And he helps to fund stroke patients and promotes stroke education. And he's a mensch. He's just earned his MBA from Howard. He's played 14 years. He says he's not sure whether he's going to continue to play or hasn't really thought about that, I guess is the way to put it. But I think he's probably going to be gently pushed out the door. You don't want to say, hey, time to go. But if you watched it last season, as they were sending backs out of the backfield on a routine basis. And he's a great tackler if he could catch the guy, but at this point, he's not as good as catching players, especially on the run and covering them out of the backfield as receivers. So we'll see what happens there. Maryland again last night. They played Ohio State. They fell behind early, lost by 20. Okay, they didn't lose by 30, but same old problems. Couldn't shoot the three. They were 8 for 26, 31%. From the field, they were 47%, while Ohio State shot 57%. They actually won the rebounding margin, not by much, 28 rebounds for them, 26 for the Buckeyes. They also beat them on the offensive boards, 11-9. But the turnovers killed them, and that's been the story all year long. Ohio State had only 8 turnovers. Maryland had 16, leading to 24 points. And say what you want about Buzz Williams and the team he has this year, which is terrible. I mean, this is going to be one of the worst seasons that Maryland basketball has ever had, certainly since Lefty Driesell came in 1969. You may have to go back to like the 40s and the 50s. But in the modern era, there's never really been a season like this. There was a 9-win season, which happened under Bob Wade in his last year. But they actually made it to the ACC tournament and won their first game. So I guess it was an 8-win regular season. But this team has just been bad, and it's coming off a Sweet 16. But the world of college basketball now is new coach, new players. Everybody's new. And for whatever you want to say about Buzz Williams, he is good to the media. He treats the media well. And we've talked about the what I think, in the context of what it is, the tragedy at the Washington Post this week where they eliminated the sports section. Gene Wong has covered college sports. He's been a jack of all trades for the papers, done a wonderful job over his 37 years there. And he was among those who was fired on Wednesday. And had he not been, he would have been at the game last night in College Park to talk to players and to talk to Buzz Williams about what happened. So I thought this was kind of a classy gesture on the part of Buzz as he opened up his news conference.
I met Gene when I was at Marquette. I don't know exactly what years, and I don't look at the internet nor read anything once practice starts. And you guys probably are, and if you're young, you will be. Everything's changing. College athletics is changing and has been changing, as is the media. But the sensitivity to all of the families relative to the post and 37 years at one place for it to end like that. Gene, if you had a question, your first question would be, why did we give the ball to the other team? So I'll go ahead and answer that question as if Gene was here. Gene, respectfully, I'm sorry that things happened the way that it did, and if I can help in any sort of way, if you hear this, not that anybody listens to me, but if I can, I will. I thought that our 11th lineup change was to see if we could look eye to eye a little bit more from a height, length standpoint, and to not fight from such a deficit on the glass. In many respects, I think that happened. Our offensive rebound percentage was the highest it's been in a long time. I thought our guys competed when the ball was on the ground at a really high level. I thought when the ball was in the air, our fight was as good as it's been in a long time. I think the problem was we turned the ball over 100% more than they did, and obviously they scored 24 points off of our turnovers. For us to be able to shoot as many balls as they shot says a lot about our fight. We need to defend without fouling. We allowed them twice as many free throws, and we had twice as many turnovers. So in many respects, Gene, I think that was the difference.
Way to go. That was nice. That was a really nice thing. I've been I've been non-renewed twice in contracts and was the victim of a format change and have never had a coach say, hey, this is for you, Andy. So hats off to you, Gene. A great run at the Washington Post, and I don't think he's done. I think there's more for him, and I hope so. And I did talk to him the other day, as a matter of fact, before this happened. Must have been Monday, yeah, so earlier this week. And he was anticipating this. And fortunately, there's a good severance package involved in this, so he's going to be fine. But good job by Buzz for doing that. Now start winning some damn games. They got a game coming up against Minnesota. It's at 2 o'clock on Super Bowl Sunday. I can't help but think back to this. And, you got to hop up on Grandpa Andy's knee for this, but maybe you're old enough to remember this. This was one of the really cool sporting events I ever went to. A friend of mine's father had season tickets, and he invited me to what was something new. I mean, they didn't really do this before. And this is when the Super Bowl started, believe it or not at 6:30, but 3:30. And that meant the game being in Los Angeles at the Coliseum was a 12:30 kickoff. And it was the Redskins and the undefeated Dolphins. This was January of 1973. Redskins had beaten the Cowboys in the NFC Championship game at RFK, one of the great moments of my sports lifetime on New Year's Eve. And now they go and they play this game. And people in television were starting to understand that people weren't just going to sit around and watch the Super Bowl. They were starting to have Super Bowl parties, and they needed something as kind of a lead-in. So it was syndicated. This was not NBC or CBS or anything, but there was enough syndication of this that there was great interest in it. These were two of the top teams in the country. Maryland with Tom McMillan and Len Elmore, and they had a freshman point guard named John Lucas, and they did make it that year to the NCAA tournament. That was when they only had 25 teams, and they did make it to the second round, which I guess we would call now the Elite Eight. But they lost. They lost to Ernie DiGregorio in Providence. But this was an enormously built-up game. The teams were like 1-3 in the country, or 2-4. I mean, they were right up there in the top five. It was Maryland and NC State with David Thompson, who was the greatest college basketball player I ever saw. And they played at Cole Fieldhouse, sold out Cole, noon game, and it came down to the wire. It didn't have the shot clock then. Lefty tried to stall. Tom McMillan got fouled twice. He was an excellent free throw shooter, but both times he missed the front end of the 1-and-1. And it came down to the end, and NC State put up a shot that was missed. David Thompson flew high above everyone else. Couldn't dunk in those days. The Lou Alcindor rule was still in effect, but he flew up above everybody else, caught the ball and dropped it through the basket, and NC State won. And the only reason that NC State didn't go to the NCAA tournament that year was because they were on probation for illegal recruiting of David Thompson. And so Maryland got to go in their place. Maryland got to go to the NCAA tournament only because NC State was on probation, but they finished undefeated that year. They did not lose a game. Following year, they lost one game, which they avenged in the Final Four when they beat UCLA and went on to win the national championship in 1974. All right, enough of that nostalgia. Let's get to what happened last night. Bobby Wagner accepting the Man of the Year award, the Walter Payton Man of the Year, to be specific. And he said something when he came out, which I think surprised most people who were watching.
I really didn't think I was going to win this award. I almost didn't even come, to be honest. I'm glad I did. I want to thank the Payton family. I want to thank Nationwide for honoring me. I want to thank my family. I'm truly grateful for the love and support. I'm going to talk about my mom a lot, but before I do that, I want to talk about my dad because I feel like a lot of the times, when my mom passed, that was the person that they asked about the most because they wanted to know how I was dealing with it. And my dad was right there and helping me out a lot, and he was kind of the silent person in my corner that doesn't get the love that he always deserves. So I want to take this time to thank him too. I didn't realize how hard it was to be a father until I got 2 kids of my own. And I realized there's a lot of work that goes unseen, a lot of sacrifices that they make, a lot of time spent away trying to provide for a family. And it made me appreciate the job that he did. So I'm truly grateful for him. But y'all seen the picture, man. I cannot be up here and not talk about my mom. She is and will ever be my rock. She's the reason why I'm standing up here. She's a person that had, confidence in me when I didn't even have confidence in myself. A quick story, I had one job before the NFL, just one, and I only had it for about a month. I got fired. But she kind of pulled me aside, and, she was asking me after I got fired, like, why was I working? And I told her I was working to help her and help the family out. And she told me, nah, like, I really feel like you can make it to the league, and I want you to focus on that. And she said, I got you. And those words always ring in my ear. Every time I try to help somebody, every time I see somebody in need, I say, I got you. Because we are look at this room. This room is truly blessing, a truly special room full of so many amazing people. And there's so much we can do together. I know there's a lot of craziness going on in this world right now, but, there's not much this room can accomplish. And we can be the people that say to the world that I got you. And so as, the world looks crazy, as things get crazy, somebody's going to be looking up to somebody, wondering if they have somebody that said, I got you. And I hope that I'm the light to say that I got you. And me standing here is my mom in current flesh. And she's not able to be here, but she lives through me. And everything I do is for her. And I honor her every chance that I get. Her love and support is the reason why I'm standing here. And, I wouldn't be here without her. And so, again, every time y'all see my face, every time y'all see me do something y'all consider that's cool or dope, just know that it's her. And I'm in the flesh. And she's not here right now, but she's here through me. And so there's no way that I can accept this award without saying you are really thanking her. So thank you, guys.
Very nice. Bobby Wagner, tribute to his mom, and the charity is in her name, helping stroke victims. He will receive up to $250,000 in donation money for that charity. And the 31 other players, each team has a nominee for the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. They get $40,000 for their charity. They first established this award. It's been known, of course, as the Walter Payton Award since he passed away in 1999, but it started in 1970. And I don't know if you've ever seen this statue before. It's of obviously a large football player with his helmet on and a cape over him, like in a bad weather game. And the player is, for you trivia buffs, his name is Steve Wright. Steve Wright was a tackle from Alabama. He played on Vince Lombardi's teams in Green Bay. Lombardi didn't get him here for the year that he coached, 1969, but hopeful to be coaching in 1970 before he passed away of cancer just before the start of that season. He had gotten Steve Wright. I don't know whether he had traded for him or was released, but he brought in Steve Wright. And Steve Wright actually played the 1970 season for the Redskins, and George Allen released him when he became coach in 1971. And they asked Wright what he would miss most about Washington, and he said Central Liquors. He went on to play 2 more years with the Bears and the Cardinals. So that's the history of the award, which originally was simply the Man of the Year award and became the Walter Payton Man of the Year award in 1999 when Payton passed away. Coming up, Jayden Daniels on Radio Row this year with much less fanfare than last year off the spectacular season where he took the team to the NFC Championship and he was the Rookie of the Year. Very disappointing year where he plays only 7 games, but said some things about the change of offensive coordinator, which I'm not sure you've heard before or even may have been the first time he talked about it. We'll get to that and more as we continue. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
Jayden Daniels has talked about this, that he likes his privacy, turns down endorsement things if it takes up too much of his time in the offseason. He's focused on football. And last year, he came to the Super Bowl, not as a player, unfortunately, as they came up well short in the NFC Championship game against Philadelphia. But he was in great demand, obviously. A spectacular rookie season. I mean, it was incredible. And he came attached to a few products, went around and did the various interviews that is required of that. And, probably did a lot more than he would have wanted to, but you get what, you kind of, and he works with his mother on this, you kind of make your decisions on what makes sense for you. This year, I don't think there were a lot of products looking to attach themselves to him. There was something he's doing with soccer and Comcast, and it could involve a game being played in Saudi Arabia. I'm not familiar with all of it, but he did have something to hawk, as they say, and he went on the Pro Football Talk show with Mike Florio and Chris Sims. And I don't think he has talked. And in fact, matter of fact, this isn't even official. There's a news conference next Tuesday with Dan Quinn and the 2 new coordinators, David Blough and his name escapes me, the defensive coordinator who came over from Minnesota. They're going to be introduced next week. The team, I guess, has put out a release about both of them, so it's official. But Daniels making the rounds yesterday with Florio and Sims. First talked about his year and then the transition from Cliff Kingsbury to David Blough.
The year was the year.
Right.
The year was the year. That's all I think I can say about that one.
I mean, it had to be crazy in the fact that year 1 went so smooth.
Yeah.
So many magical moments. And then you kind of have those expectations to continue to year 2, right?
Yeah.
And then it's one thing after another.
Yeah, hopefully this is the most adversity I deal with in my career. But, at the end of the day, it's kind of just something that you got to go through, as a professional in your sport. You got to deal with the highs and lows, man. Everybody deals with it. I'm not saying I'm one of them, but Marcus Mariota told me, all the great ones gone through it. So
yeah.
I just kind of where you got to wrap your head around it.
What do you do to try to take that adversity and force it into a positive, like lessons learned from it, just motivation from it? What do you do?
Yeah, I think obviously you're motivated to get back out there and go and show what you can do once again. When you're healthy, obviously a lot of people deal with a lot of different injuries, and when you're not you, it kind of shows on the field. But other than that, man, I think just the positives I was able to learn from it was just I seen the game from a different perspective. Obviously, it sucks to be on the sideline. And you want to go out there and play, and I most definitely want to play. But at the end of the day, I was able to sit back and really learn the game from different things like, okay, how can we, as an offense, get in premier plays? You only get a certain amount of plays per game, and you need to capitalize on each and every one of those plays. And how can we do that? How can I continue to grow with my knowledge of the game and learn more? So I kind of just was able to take that, and the coaches sat down with me and had that conversation with me. And, we kind of just went from there.
Well, all right. So you're taking me down. I mean, so within all that, because you've been a baller. You're the man already.
I appreciate that.
You're the man, but within that, one of the shockers of the offseason is that you guys don't have Cliff Kingsbury anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how surprised were you? I know you had a relationship with him. I know you loved the offense. Like, how surprising was that to you?
Man, it's tough. Obviously, I trust what the organization's doing, and it was just tough. I have a relationship with him, and I wish him nothing but the best. But I'm also excited, to get to work with Blough and what he could do. I've been with Blough for both my years in the NFL, so I'm most definitely excited about that.
All right, so that's a politically correct thing to say. I don't know what you can take from his delivery as to how he feels about Kingsbury being out, but I'm sure there's some insecurity there. I mean, the guy helped him put together one of the greatest rookie seasons in history, and last year, while his performance wasn't the same, it was a year where he's in and out with injuries. I don't know how much you can judge from that. This is part 2 of the conversation with Florio asking this obvious question.
How different do you expect the offense to look this year in comparison to your first 2 seasons?
I think he's going to throw his own flavor on there. Obviously, he's been around Cliff for 2 years, so what he's learned from Cliff is probably some stuff he's going to integrate in the offense. He's been around Ben Johnson. He's been around a lot of guys, so we talked about it. I've been very vocal, like stuff I want to do. He's been open, like he tells me all the time, like, we want to build this offense for you. So that's kind of what a quarterback wants to hear. And, I'm super excited for him to get his opportunity. I know what he can do. I know the work that he puts in because me and him sat up there constantly, had conversations, and we talk all the time. So I'm just super excited to get back out there, when we got OTAs, we got mandatory minicamp to really see, what he's cooking up.
What about for you personally, right? Like, what's the thing year 3 you're kind of like, I want to get a little bit better in this area? I know you're trying to be great and everything.
I mean, kind of just everything, but I would say even with the, play action and stuff like that, that helps out too. But I would just say just in general, just as a quarterback, whether that's being better at situational football on third down, my first year was better at third down, second year it wasn't as good. Like, how can I find that consistency on third down? Because those are the money downs where you're going to have to get to, or how on 1st and 10, if we call a shot, once we pass the 50, it's like, okay, it's not there, let's check the ball down, get a 2nd and 4, things like that. So that's kind of where I want to keep learning from, keep my awareness, and keep propelling in that.
And learn how to protect yourself. I think that was a hard lesson to learn this year, and I'm sure he's going to spend a lot of time focusing on that in the offseason. Daniels, last year, part of the award ceremony is he won Rookie of the Year. This year, obviously, there were going to be no awards for him. And Matt Stafford wound up being the MVP last night. He's not the oldest MVP. He's 37 years old. Tom Brady, not surprisingly, holds that distinction, won it at age 40 in 2017. Aaron Rodgers won it back-to-back years, 2020 and 2021, when he was 37 and 38. Peyton Manning, Rich Gannon, and Y.A. Tittle reached 37 when they won the MVP in 2013, 2002, and then Tittle 1963. I guess Tittle would be the outlier there, although those giant teams that he played on late in his career. He came from San Francisco in his mid-30s, and I think they went to 4 straight or 3 straight championship games. They didn't have the Super Bowl yet, and they lost all of them. And he's in the Hall of Fame, and to be an MVP, and I think it was his second to last year. That was the year they lost to the Bears in the championship game. It's impressive at a time when players didn't play that long, and if they did, they weren't going to be that effective. But I heard something from Phil Simms many, many years ago. He said, it's a cruel game, especially at the quarterback position, because it takes you so long to get down the mental part of the game that by the time you have it, your body begins to betray you. Now, Simms, interesting story. He's the MVP of the Super Bowl. Was that Super Bowl 21, I believe? where he had 22 of 23. I mean, he was spectacular in that game. Run-based team, but if you only throw 23 passes and you complete 21 or 22 of them, that's pretty damn good. His last season, he was 38 years old, and that was 1993. He started all 16 games. His numbers were very good, 62% completion, 3,000 yards, 15 touchdowns, 9 interceptions on a run-based team. Remember that. And he retired after that. He made only his second Pro Bowl in his last year at age 38. He'd made one before in 1985 when he was 30. And he walked away, and I remember the following year was when Bernie Kosar got cut by first-year coach Bill Belichick in Cleveland, and he called Sims, and Sims was at that time working on the set with Joe Theismann on ESPN, and it was in the news, and they were talking about it, and Theismann at that point, at least 1994, he was in his 40s, and he had last played in 85, so he's 9 years out of the game. He says, don't call me. You had a chance to call me. His career was essentially ended by a broken leg. But Sims elected to stay in television and not come back. But you're seeing this resurgence of older players after what everybody watched Tom Brady do, playing effectively till the age of 45. Stafford had missed most of training camp, too, with an aggravated disc in his back. This is recent, but it seems like ancient history, given how the season unfolded. He was allowed to talk to other teams. There was an offer reportedly of over $100 million. He wound up going back to the Rams, probably because he likes playing for Sean McVay so much, and announced last night after he won the award that he's going to come back next season. Also, some Hall of Fame stuff. We got this used to be a Saturday announcement. Now I guess everything's television, so they do it on Thursday night. And the ones who got in, a couple of slam dunks. I mean, Drew Brees, of course, he was going to get in. Larry Fitzgerald, second leading receiver of all time, of course. I think these two, one's overdue. The other one, you can debate whether or not he's a Hall of Famer because he only played 8 years. But Luke Kuechly got in, and Adam Vinatieri. Adam Vinatieri, I think, is the third kicker to get in. Morton Anderson is in, Jan Stenerud. So Vinatieri, and I think Vinatieri is the best of all time. Vinatieri had the greatest kick in NFL history. The kick that sent the game into overtime in the Tuck Rule game was like 48 yards in a snowstorm. That's got to be up there. So, and that team doesn't win the Super Bowl if he doesn't make that kick. That was the first Brady Super Bowl when they went on and played in New Orleans and beat the heavily favored Rams. Now the seniors thing. This is it, and also on the modern era, Eli Manning did not make it, and I'll get to a couple of others on that in a second. But the buzz all week was, Bill Belichick didn't make it on the first ballot. I can't believe it. Well, now it comes out Robert Kraft didn't either, and Kraft and Belichick were grouped in with Roger Craig on the seniors list, and he made it. But the other two seniors finalists, and this was seen as part of the reason that Kraft and Belichick didn't get in because so many of the voters wanted to put these old-timers in, Ken Anderson and L.C. Greenwood did not get in. So, again, there was only one from that special group, that seniors group where they group in the coaches. So you had the three players with Roger Craig and with Ken Anderson and L.C. Greenwood plus Kraft and Belichick, and only one emerges, Roger Craig, 50 votes. And the votes were split up enough, I guess, that Craig was the only one who had 40 of the 50 votes. Each of the voters got 3 votes for 5 people, and he was the only one to make it. So that's kind of a surprise. And then the ones along with Eli that didn't make it from the modern era, there's one that just blows my mind. Frank Gore didn't get in. I don't understand that. He had a lot of yards. Marshall Yanda, who was a guard with the Ravens when they won the Super Bowl. Terrell Suggs, defensive end with them. I think he won another one with the Colts, if I'm not mistaken. And Willie Anderson, a tackle, not the wide receiver, not Flipper Anderson. Willie Anderson, again, I don't understand it. But here's the one that blows my mind. Jason Witten. I know it was his first year of eligibility. How does Jason Witten not make it? Jason Witten went to 11 Pro Bowls over a 17-year career. He was a 4-time All-Pro. Remember, as a broadcaster, he was god-awful. He had 1 year on Monday Night Football. Maybe that hurt his chances. Shouldn't be considered, but he was miserable as a broadcaster with Joe Tessitore the 1 year he did Monday Night Football. He actually was so bad that he realized he was so bad and didn't have a future in TV. Then he went back and played 2 more years, played a year with Dallas and played a year with the Vegas Raiders, finally retiring after the 2020 season. But, I mean, here are the numbers. Tony Gonzalez, he's the greatest tight end of all time. He had 1,862 catches, 114 touchdowns. Those are like the numbers that Jerry Rice put out there for wide receiver. But Witten is second with 1,725. He's got, 140 less catches and fewer TDs, 74, but nobody else is close on that. Jason Kelce, first ballot Hall of Famer. 3 Super Bowls. Jason Kelce. Well, Jason Kelce has just over 1,500 catches. He would need over 200 more to get past Witten. That's not going to happen. So I just don't understand this. To me, that is the most shocking of all of them. Eli Manning, you could make a case, either way. Eli Manning was great in 2 Super Bowl runs and kind of averaged the rest of the time, but historic Super Bowls, stopping the Patriots' undefeated season. I mean, there's certain things you look at in sort of a Joe Namath scope here, where Namath's career numbers are not good, certainly not Hall of Fame worthy, but he won the biggest game of his, maybe the biggest game in NFL history. If you want to stretch this out, because that legitimized the merger. It changed the view of football in a lot of people's minds and helped to popularize the sport in a way that I don't think any other game did. The Super Bowl that year was watched by 41 million people. More than 3 times as many people will watch that this year. And I said earlier this week, I think it was a 30-second spot commercial in Super Bowl III sold for $55,000. They'll sell for over $8 million on Sunday. But that to me is a shocker. Breeze, Fitzgerald, of course. Vinatieri, Keithley, okay. Roger Craig on the seniors committee, fine. But Jason Witten not making the Hall of Fame? It's insane. And I don't know if they it's a first ballot type of thing. What? Again, the way this used to work, I don't know whether it still works this way in the room, but to me, it's like there are certain names that would come up that, obviously we're going to get in, and they wouldn't even debate it. They go, oh, yeah, of course he's going to get in. They take the vote, boom, over, in. Didn't work that way. All right, we'll get to the Super Bowl prop bets and more. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630. One of the Radio Row guests yesterday on the Dan Patrick Show was somebody whose name only recently stopped coming up when it came to quarterback talk. And that's Andrew Luck, who played his last game in 2018. He still, though, doesn't turn 37 until September. And as crazy as it sounds, he's lost a lot of weight, and he's clearly not going to come back. And he's basically the general manager of football at Stanford. But if he said, yeah, I think I'd like to give it another shot, teams would line up. He left you wanting more. He retired because of a calf injury. He had a great year in 2018. He was comeback player of the year. He missed the previous year because of a shoulder injury. But the numbers for Andrew Luck in his last season, he completed 61% of his passes, 39 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, and played all 16 games. 29 years old, made his 4th Pro Bowl that year. He was just seemingly coming into his prime. He'd been great already. And there's even some who would say he may have even Hall of Fame stats. I don't know if I don't think he'd say that. He didn't, make it to a Super Bowl or anything like that. But I mean, pretty remarkable how much quarterbacks are in demand. And if Andrew Luck said, yeah, I think I'd like to play again, somebody might give him of course somebody give him a shot. They would say, yes, please come to training camp. We'll guarantee you X number of dollars. But that's not going to happen. He's a really smart guy, and he's not coming back. He's not coming back. Some betting stuff, and I would think that if we didn't have the Super Bowl this weekend, this would get a lot more attention. Now, it's not a news story, but there's new details which make it seem so much worse. A couple of pitchers got popped for throwing suspicious pitches to benefit gamblers. One of them is Guardians pitcher Emmanuel Clase. He will certainly never pitch again. And then there's Luis Ortiz, who he has pitched with the Pirates. He played 3 seasons for the Pirates and was with the Guardians last year. He only appeared in 16 games. But he, like Clase, is on what they call non-disciplinary leave while this is all investigated. But what they have found with Clase, according to reports, is that he may have done this in 48 games over 2 years. Now, when they popped him, federal prosecutors listed 9 games in which he allegedly threw rigged pitches, but now it's the possibility of 48 games is what they're saying. Clase is a reliever, so he's going to go into a lot of games. Most games. Appeared in 197 regular season games from 2023 to 2025. And if the allegations are true, he would have manipulated his performance in a quarter of those games, 197 games, and they're saying as many as 48. Wow. He has pleaded not guilty, as has Ortiz, not guilty to charges of wire fraud, conspiracy, honest services wire fraud, money laundering, conspiracy to influence sporting events by bribery, yes. The charges carry a potential punishment of up to 20 years in prison, and they believe Dominican Republic bettors made $460,000 in bets off of that. I don't know how much they got paid, but clearly it was a really stupid mistake. And then, more than one mistake if he did it in 48 games. And then Tom Lovero's got a column today. Tom is kind of the Runyon-esque guy, and unfortunately, and I've always thought he's a great columnist. I've told him he's the best columnist in town. He's the only one left, with the shutdown of the Washington Post sports section. Barry Zerluga is working at the Olympics, but I think more as a reporter. And Candace Buckner got fired the other day, too. So they don't have any sports columnists in town except Tom. So read Tom in the Washington Times. He writes about a bookmaker named Art Manteris, who's got a new book out called The Bookies, Inside the High-Stakes World of Sports Betting, a legendary bookmaker's tale of gangsters, celebrities, and the art of the game. And he spent 40 years running the big sports books in Vegas, Caesars, Stardust, the Hilton. He took bets, Tom writes, from gangsters, celebrities, sports legends, and icons of industry, like a $1 million bet from Vegas resort owner Kirk Kerkorian on the 1995 Super Bowl between the 49ers and the Chargers. I hope he took San Francisco in that game. That was a blowout. 6 touchdown passes for Steve Young. And then he says that in the book, $1 million super bets are still a highlight for sure. He said even when he faced the prospect of a Super Bowl beatdown for his book, Scott Norwood's missed field goal in Super Bowl 25 between the Giants and the Bills still causes him nightmares, he said, and he retired in 2021. But there's more on this about shutting down famous gamblers or gamblers who are famous in other places. Had to shut down Phil Mickelson, Jaromir Jagr, remember, played for the Caps. Mickelson had entered into a betting syndicate with Carl Icahn and Billy Walters, maybe the most successful sports bettor bookmakers they've ever seen. They came up with a system that gave them early access to odds, which put the Hilton Sportsbook at risk. Manteris had to go to Hilton chairman Barron Hilton to convince him that the group was affecting outcomes. Mr. Hilton, quote, quashed it immediately. No questions asked, Manteris wrote. I had to cut off Mickelson. Jagr was a different story. Hardly the sophisticated bettor that Mickelson was. Jagr didn't bet on hockey, but he did bet on every other sport, losing big and often. Jagr was so bad at sports betting, we actually felt guilty. We had to put the brakes on him. I had to do that for a lot, but I did it for I mean, he was a schlemiel. And actually, that was kind of known when they made the trade for him, and that's why they were reluctant to do it. But Ted Leonsis had shot off his mouth on a radio show saying that he was going to get a superstar here, and all the other superstars who were free agents on the market, like I remember Jeremy Roenick that year, or Jeremy Roenick, excuse me. I know Roenick, John Roenick. Jeremy Roenick had signed with Philadelphia and a couple of others, but they wound up signing him because Ted had promised that they would bring in a superstar. He was a superstar, but he wasn't here. He was a big bust, and they eventually got rid of him. All right, some of these Super Bowl prop bets, which are fun, and this one right off the top hits home for me because I know him and I know his brother. His brother played sports with my son growing up. It's Mac Hollins, who has gone from kind of like a role guy. He was drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles primarily to be a special teams guy. He was part of the Eagles Super Bowl team in his rookie year. They cut him during his second year, I believe. He wound up in Miami. Then he moved on to the Raiders, I believe, and I know he's with the Falcons. And now he's with I think there was the Bills in there too. Now he's with the New England Patriots. He's in his 9th year. And usually a guy doesn't emerge like this after this period of time. Mac's in his early 30s now. He's supposed to be on the downside. But he's the number 2 receiver on this team next to Stephon Diggs. And he also has kind of an odd way about him. He's a really good person, but he marches to the beat of his own drum, and he likes to walk around barefoot. And he's been known to show up from cold-blooded places barefoot. This is going to be, I think, the game time kickoff is temperature 65, so that's not going to be a problem. But the prop bet is, will he show up for the game barefoot or not? Yes is minus 550. No, plus 325. The heavy money, of course, would be on barefoot. That's what he does. You have to bet a lot of money to win a little bit. Number 2, will they mention the matchup is Mike versus Mike? That would be the two coaches, Mike McDonald and Mike Vrabel. And the betting money is on yes at plus 200. No is minus 300, partly because the announcer for the game is Mike Tirico. And Mike Tirico is the best, not only the best play-by-play guy going, nobody researches the game better than Mike. So I would think that the Mike and Mike thing will happen. So I would bet yes on that, but if I was going to bet. Number 3, which song will Green Day play first in the pregame show? Bad Bunny is the halftime performer, but the Green Day choices are American Idiot at plus 100. I don't know any of these songs. Basket Case plus 300. Know Your Enemy plus 400. Boulevard of Broken Dreams. Yeah, I have heard that. That's plus 500. When I Come Around plus 600. 21 Guns 700. Holiday plus 750. And Minority plus 800. And then Longview is a plus 1,200 long shot. Number 4, will Bad Bunny expose a nipple? He's reportedly going to wear a dress to honor the LGBTQ community. And if you believe that we'll have a wardrobe malfunction or a purposeful wardrobe, however you want to put it, yes is minus 450, no plus 275. Remember the famous Janet Jackson one in Houston. I think that was 2004. Number 5, will Seattle attempt a pass from the opponent's 1-yard line? Ooh, that's a good one. Because remember, of course, last time Seattle was in the Super Bowl, they had the Marshawn Lynch should have been handoff that didn't happen, and the Malcolm Butler interception. So if you're betting yes, will they attempt it from the 1-yard line, it's plus 550. No, minus 1,000. For what it's worth, the Seahawks have had 7 1-yard touchdowns this season. They were all rushing plays. So keep that in mind. Number 6, will a Patriots linebacker catch a pass in the game? You remember Mike Vrabel, coach of the team, caught a touchdown pass in 2 Super Bowls, one against the Panthers in 2003 and the Eagles in 2004. So yes would be plus 600, no would be minus 1,500. And Josh McDaniels was on both of those staffs. So will they do that for kicks? No, I don't think so in a Super Bowl. And this one I like. This is one that we do every year. What color Gatorade will be poured on the winning coach? Orange is the favorite at plus 240, along with blue at plus 240. Yellow, green, or lime plus 275. Purple 550. Just water would be plus 700, and red or pink would be plus 1,400. And then this one, will Stephon Diggs propose to Cardi B after the game? Yes, there's no on this. There's yes because it's not going to happen. Yes is plus 1,000. Can't even bet no on it. Just a friendly reminder that Diggs' Minnesota teammates once said in 2021 he'd be the last teammate they'd want dating their sister. He'd probably be content with settling for a Super Bowl ring. So there's that. And then there's Louis Riddick showing up on Dan Patrick's show yesterday. Louis Riddick was a defensive back of some note, played about 7-8 years in the NFL with the Browns and the Raiders, and played on a Cleveland Browns team that had some great coaching with Bill Belichick as the head coach and Nick Saban as the defensive coordinator, which we'll get to. But this was a funny story. It was about trying to cover Jerry Rice when he was playing with Cleveland in the mid-'90s.
We're playing San Francisco Monday Night Football, 1996 in Atlanta. And that's when Steve was there and Brent Jones, I believe, was still there. Ricky was the running back, Waters and all. Anyway, Jerry runs a slant. And I had him lined up, but Steve overthrew him. And I'm screaming in Jerry's face. I'm like, expletive, like, you're so lucky you didn't catch that ball. You're so lucky. And I'll tell you what, I don't know if I can get up, but I literally, like, he looks at me, and he grabs my shoulder pad, and he turns me around and looks at my nameplate on the back, and he goes, who are you? And walks away, and I was just like, wow. And I just kind of like, a couple of teammates heard it, and they were just like, damn, dude, he just clowns you. he literally turned me around. He was like, who are you? I was like, you would have known who I was. It was like one of those where you like, you want to talk to the GOAT. You want to tell the GOAT how you were about to knock him out. And he was just like, I don't even know who you are. So, I mean, what do I care? I was like, well, whatever. But I got Steve pretty good in that game, too. Steve Young is, look, I call him the great Steve Young whenever I see him because he truly is. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play this game. Steve was so damn good. I caught him one time. I caught him in midair. He tried to jump over me. He was running like a quarterback keeper, and I dumped him on his head. It was a pretty good hit, too. He fumbled the ball and stuff, but that was that same game. And, look, honestly, I think that 96 season, I played against some really good teams that year, man. I mean, we played against – Dallas was still rolling at that time. That might have been 92, 93. We played against Brett Favre. We played all the great quarterbacks back then. I mean, there were some just really, really dominant teams in the early 90s.
But I remember Mike Holmgren telling me about Favre. I said, what's it like coaching him? He said, well, he loves degree of difficulty. That guy's open, but that guy's got three guys covering him. I'm going to the guy who's covered by three.
That seems like Brett. That seems like, I first met Brett.
But could you fool him into making him make those difficult throws?
Now, interestingly enough, okay, so I played against Brett when he was in his rookie season when Sterling Sharp and all them were still there in the early 90s. Could you fool Brett into it? I don't necessarily think that Brett really cared if you were trying to fool him. He's going to do what he wanted to do. So whether or not he read the coverage right or not, it didn't really matter. He's doing what he wants to do because he had that kind of like arm arrogance that guys like Stafford have now, where it doesn't really matter what you do because they know there's like only about, maybe a handful of guys who've ever walked the face of the earth who can fit a ball into a spot that maybe no one else can. So they do it anyway. Those are guys who like Elway was kind of like that. Like when you played against John, you knew that he had that go-go gadget arm and could throw it a mile, and he could also run. And he just had that look on his face like, I don't really care what you do. It's about what I do. And those dudes are special, man. And, yeah, Brett was like that.
That's Louis Riddick, part one with Dan Patrick. Part two, they get into his days in Cleveland. Now, this is forgotten about Bill Belichick the first time around because I think they won like 5 games his last year in Cleveland. The team moved to Baltimore. He didn't move with them. Ted Marsha-Broda got the job. He lasted a few years. Brian Billick took over. Then John Harbaugh, and the rest is history. And there's 2 Super Bowls in between. What happens? What happens if Bill Belichick remains the coach of the Cleveland Browns, or they move to Baltimore, which was pretty much his backyard growing up? He grew up in Annapolis. His father was a lifer at the Naval Academy as an assistant coach, and that's he always speaks fondly of that. That would have been a really interesting run if that would have happened, if he would have gone to Baltimore, the closest place to his hometown, and had the success there. But the things bottomed out in the 1995 season, which was the last year in Cleveland. However, the year before, they had been building. The first year for Belichick was 1993, after he left New York, and he he was, taking over a team that was in pretty rough shape. He decided to get rid of Bernie Kosar at that point. That was very controversial because Bernie was loved in Cleveland. He actually wanted to play for the Cleveland Browns. Not many guys wanted that. And then 94, they have a playoff team. But then the word gets out that the team is going to leave. The fans are all upset. The players are out of sorts, and things bottomed out in 1995. But they were building in 1994, and they had the two GOATs in place. I mean, you just look at this now and you go, my God. I mean, the greatest. Okay, off this Hall of Fame nonsense, you might not say Bill Belichick's the greatest anymore because he wasn't good enough to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. But he's got more Super Bowls than anybody else, and Nick Saban has more national championships than anybody else. And they were working together and working with Louis Riddick, and the team didn't win big. They won to some extent in 94, but it didn't work out the following year, and everybody scattered. This was Riddick with Dan on this question.
You look at that Cleveland Browns staff that you had, Belichick and Nick Saban.
It was.
How come you guys weren't good?
Because we didn't have any offense. We stunk on offense. I mean, Dan, we stunk. It wasn't good. We had one of the best defenses in 94 in the history of the league. And, I mean, we would just snuff people out. I mean, blank them. And we'd still lose games. So that 94 season, we lost to the Steelers 3 times that year, twice in the regular season. Then we lost to them in the divisional round in Pittsburgh. I remember we went there to Pittsburgh, and we ran out on the football field for pregame. It was myself, Eric Turner, maybe Rob Burnett, Anthony Place, a couple of guys on defense. I remember seeing this figure like down in the corner of the end zone. I see this dude standing there who was like a cut-off gray T-shirt. He had his Steeler pants on, and I just remember seeing like his arms, and it was Greg Lloyd. And he was standing there waiting, and he's just screaming, "Where the bleep is Vinny? Where's Vinny?" Like Testaverde. And I remember looking at Eric Turner going, "Dude, we are dead. We are dead today."
And so was Vinny.
Oh my God! And you know what they had? So that's when they had Bam Morris, John L. Williams, and who was the other running back? Bam, John L. I forget who the other guy was. They had 3 backs go for over 100 yards that day. 3. I had 11 tackles at halftime. So that's we just couldn't score, Dan. That was the problem.
If you were getting tackles, that means they're at the second level.
Yeah. And I played down in the box because remember I wasn't a big cover guy. I was a tackler.
That's right.
They had me down in the box a lot. But yeah, you know what? That staff. Getting back to that staff though, that was football. That was like going to the Harvard of football. To learn from Nick and Bill at the same time, it was so hard at the time because of the demands that they put on you. And I'm telling you, I had a lot of sleepless nights those 3 years in Cleveland. But as I tell Nick now, and I tell Bill anytime I see him, I would not change it for the world. Those guys are savants. They are one of one. And whenever you lost football games or didn't play well, it was your fault. It wasn't their fault because they gave you the answers. It's just whether or not you could use them. They are that damn smart. And those 2 guys, they're the 2 greatest coaches in my mind of all time, without a doubt.
Which one is the greatest coach of all time?
You know, I think I hit it off with, I had a much more personal relationship with Nick than I did with Bill because Bill was the head coach and Nick was the coordinator and the DB coach. Bill was very much like you think he is. Like Bill was very business by the book, not very emotional about things. Like he would say hi to you 1 minute and the next minute tell you I'm cutting you, get out of here. And like wouldn't break a smile. Nick was so hard on you, but when you did it the way you wanted, he would give you that look that like kind of like that fatherly look that's just like, I approve, that's what I want from you. So he was the guy who I gravitated towards. But I'll tell you what now, both of those dudes, they are not for everyone. But if you get coached by them, and you win their approval, there's no greater feeling because they truly are the grand masters of this game.
That is Louis Riddick yesterday with Dan Patrick. And when you think about coaches who rise to the level that they get to, some might say, oh, yeah, well, we could see that with Nick Saban back in the early 90s at Cleveland. He was going to go places. Well, his first head coaching job off of that was, I think he went to Dayton, or maybe he went to Dayton first and then he went to the Cleveland. But the first big-time coaching job was at Michigan State. Michigan State's good job. It's not Alabama. It's not LSU, which is where he won national championships. And you would think, oh, wow, he's learning from Bill Belichick at that point. was a guy who was known as a really good defensive coordinator. He'd helped Bill Parcells win 2 Super Bowls with the Giants. He wasn't the head coach, the mastermind of those 6 Super Bowls yet. So the hindsight, as Steve Spurrier said, is always 50-50. You just don't know on these guys. And it reminded me when Joe Gibbs went in the Hall of Fame in 1996. He went in with others who were in that class. He went in as a coach, and then there was the end of the modern era, which got Dan Dierdorf in. He might have had to go to the seniors committee, but he was like right at the end of that 25-year period after retirement where he could get in, and he did. And so they had news conferences for all the people that were going in the Hall of Fame. This was 1996. And they were asking Dierdorf about Gibbs, who had been an assistant with the St. Louis Cardinals when Dierdorf was a player. And they said to him, well, did you foresee that Joe Gibbs would be able to become a Hall of Fame coach with 3 Super Bowl championships? And Dierdorf said, of all the people that were on that staff with Don Coryell was the head coach, he might have been the last guy that I would have thought would become a successful head coach. So you just don't know. You just don't know. And you look back on that, and wow, what didn't they see in Bill Belichick? What didn't they see in Nick Saban? Why didn't some owner or some school president say, hey, that's the guy we have to have? Like Spurrier says, hindsight is always 50-50.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.
More than anything else in my career, I'm about to do something that I hoped I would never have to do. My retirement is not that far off, and I was hopeful that I wouldn't have to talk about this on the radio, but the Commanders have released a statement from the family of Sonny Jurgensen, and the first couple of lines: it is with profound sadness that we share the passing of our husband, father, and grandfather, Sonny Jurgensen. We are enormously proud of his amazing life and accomplishments on the field, marked not only by a golden arm, but also a fearless spirit and intellect that it earned him a place among the legends in Canton. But those of us who knew him beyond the stadium lights, he was steady, humorous, and deeply loving of heart of our family. He lived with deep appreciation for his teammates, colleagues, and friends he met along the way. While he was taken on his final snap, his legacy will remain an indelible part of the city he loved and the family he built. Wow. I actually had been told that it was imminent a couple of days ago and told not to say anything, but I didn't know when I would talk about it. Apparently, this has just come out in the last hour or so, and I was just made aware of it during the break. There is so much that I can say about him, and I've done Sonny tribute shows before when he retired from broadcasting, and just a tribute to someone who, to me anyway, is the most legendary athlete in my lifetime, and somebody that I looked up to as a player, and then through great fortune got to work with him. I mean, that old line about you don't want to meet your heroes, that didn't apply to Sonny. He was a down-to-earth person who had just an amazing life, not just as a player, not just as a Hall of Fame player, starting out with the Philadelphia Eagles and then coming to Washington in 1964 to a team that wasn't good. And he was, what he was doing was essentially the only thing worth watching on that team because they were horrible defensively. And he could put up 5 touchdowns in a game and they would lose. That's how bad they were defensively. And then, the way life works out, he's coming into the twilight of his career. He's in his mid-30s. And finally, George Allen comes along with the defense, and then his body lets him down. Preseason game against Miami, first year for George Allen, 1971. He throws an interception, and he would be the first to tell you, foolishly tried to make a tackle, broke his shoulder, missed most of the year. 1972, comes back, wins back the starting job over Billy Kilmer, who'd done a miraculous job in 1971, taking them to the playoffs. And then as things are rolling with the best team that Sonny would ever play on in Washington, he stepped at a hole at Yankee Stadium, tore his Achilles, out for the season. Billy took the team to the Super Bowl. And the one thing that Washington was missing in that Super Bowl was a great passer, because what they did was they decided, the Dolphins, they were going to bottle up Larry Brown, who was the offensive MVP of the league that year, and make Billy Kilmer beat him with his arm, and he couldn't do it. They lost 14-7. Sonny came back in 1973. We had the Billy and Sonny controversy. I like Billy, I like Sonny bumper stickers. Again, injuries a lot of that year. 1974, led the league in passing percentage, just couldn't stay healthy, retired at 40. But had a miraculous career, was actually a champion once. He was a backup to Norm Van Brocklin in 1960. Van Brocklin retired right after that. He took over as the starting quarterback for the Eagles, and I think in his first or second year set a record for most touchdown passes in 32. But that's only part of the story. If you just talk about the legacy of Sonny Jurgensen as a player, that's short shrift, because he did something that is common now, but really wasn't that common in those days, to be able to step right off the field and go into a network broadcasting job. And he became one of the top analysts for CBS right after he retired in 74. Went right to the broadcast booth, worked some games with Vin Scully. And Vin Scully was in competition, so to speak, with Pat Summerall to become the lead voice of the NFL. Summerall, had Tom Brookshire for a long time, and then he teamed with Madden to probably make the most famous broadcast team of all time. But Sonny was good on network TV, and I don't know whether it was his choice or the network's choice, but he did not re-sign with them. And he came back to Washington to work right here on this frequency. This was the old WMAL. We call the call letters here WSBN now. But 630 was the number one station in Washington in the 1980s, further back beyond that, well into the 90s. And Sonny Jurgensen joined his old friend Sam Huff. They came to Washington the same year. Sam had been traded here from the New York Giants, and Sonny was traded here for Norm Snead in 1964, and they became friends. They were the two best players on the team, and they were not happy about being traded, especially Sam. And they became the closest of friends throughout their lives. And so Andy Ockershausen, the late, great general manager of WMAL, was very good friends with Sonny and his wife, Margot. And he said, I'm going to put you in the booth with Sam. And at that point, Frank Herzog. Frank Herzog had taken over in 1978, and Frank and Sam were the duo. And he added Sonny, and it just coincided with the greatest era of sports in this town, as with new coach Joe Gibbs, though they started 0-5 in 1981, they went on to play in 4 Super Bowls over the following 9 years, winning 3 of them. And they were the soundtrack of that era here, Sonny, Sam, and Frank. And they were spectacular together. And people did turn down the sound and listen to Sonny Jurgensen. And Sonny, on top of that, got into television. Now, he had done television as a player. In fact, Channel 9 had number 9, that was Sonny's number, retired by the team a couple of years ago, finally. Sonny did a show on Channel 9 called The Sonny Jurgensen Show. And he would have on his teammates. And I remember one, I think it was a Christmas Eve show in the 1969 season, he had Vince Lombardi on. Vince Lombardi, the greatest coach in NFL history and the greatest coach, he said, that he ever played for. Sonny, in fact, said he did not get to play in a Super Bowl, but he felt like he had traded that, and it was a good trade to spend a year with Lombardi. He had the best year of his career. He loved Lombardi, and had they stayed together, there was a chance I think they would have won a Super Bowl. They were that good together. In fact, when Vince Lombardi was introduced as the head coach in 1969, he was asked about Sonny, and he said, by the time we win a Super Bowl, Sonny's arm is going to fall off. And then he went to the mini camp, or maybe it was training camp, because I don't know if they had mini camps in those days, but he watched Sonny throw, and he said, if we'd have had him in Green Bay, we'd have been a monopoly. He had his own Hall of Fame quarterback in Bart Starr, and they won 5 championships, including the first 2 Super Bowls in a 7-year period. But if you had Sonny, he might have won every year. I mean, you can't do much better than 5 championships in 7 years, can you? But if he had Sonny, it would have been that good. but fortunately, it was just 1 year together. And then I chronicled what happened. The 70 season, Sonny played well, but the team didn't win. And then when they won with George Allen, he was hurt all the time, and it wound down his career at the age of 40. But coming back to do radio here in 1981 and not being on CBS TV, he became part of the crew with Glenn Brenner. And Glenn Brenner was, he was a genius on television. And Sonny was, I don't want to say sidekick, but he was part of his Redskins coverage. And they did a show called Redskins Sidelines, where Sonny would be with him with a live audience in the studio, and they'd have a player on. I mean, it was a glorious time for broadcasting here in Washington, and Sonny was a big part of this. And look, Sonny had also expertise in basketball. He was a great basketball player growing up. He wound up playing football at Duke, but was recruited to play basketball at North Carolina and said he was a better basketball player than a football player. And when he was at Duke, there was a story that he later debunked that his good friend named Lefty Driesell, I don't know if they were roommates. I don't think they were, but they were friends. And that Lefty Driesell told him, "Hey, we got an injury on the team. We'd like to add you." He said, "No." He said Lefty wouldn't have wanted to add me to the team because if I played on that team, Lefty would be watching, which I thought was a great line. But Sonny said he used to practice with the team. He was that good. He was good enough to practice with the Duke team and certainly hold his own. But he went on to play football, got drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles, started as a rookie, and then became the backup once Norm Van Brocklin came in. Van Brocklin left. He becomes the starter, comes here. The rest is history. But the basketball element, when he was still playing, he did color for basketball games. The famous Jim O'Brien game with where they held the ball against South Carolina, and O'Brien hit the big shot at the end, getting a rebound off a missed free throw. Incredible game. Sonny was the color voice. This was a local telecast on either Channel 7 or Channel 9. And there are many, many other stories about his life, including the fact that he saw the Wilt Chamberlain 100-point game, where hundreds of thousands of people said they were there. He was there. 6,000 people in the stands in Hershey, Pennsylvania. He was playing for a team of off-season Eagles. Like they had a team that they would go around and play charity games or maybe even make a few bucks, playing other teams, which is what they did that night. They played the Baltimore Colts players in a basketball game. Sonny had a big game. He's showering up after the game, and he hears, "Hey, Wilt's had a big first quarter. Why don't you stick around?" He did. He saw the 100-point game. I mean, just so many things that I will talk about in depth on Monday. But again, I liken him to Joe DiMaggio, except he was so accessible to the people. As his second career in television was a great success in every way. And he lived to be 91 years old, taking a tremendous beating playing football. The game was a lot different then than it is now. They didn't protect the quarterbacks, and guys like Doug Atkins used to pile drive them into the ground. And I remember the years playing here where they knew they had to throw the ball every time. The pass rush was enormous, but he managed to get the ball off quickly and was just a great, great player, one of the great pure passers of all time, along with Dan Marino, and just never started a playoff game here, but was as great an athlete as we've had in this town. And sadly, we say goodbye to him at the age of 91, but what a life, and I will have much more to say about him on Monday. Bram is coming up next from the Super Bowl. Enjoy the game, and I will see you back here Monday morning at 9 a.m.